Yo, how's it going?
How you doing, mate? You're right.
Yeah, not too bad.
Good man, good man. What you been up to sort of the past year? Oh shit!
I was like, hang on, am I looking at the wrong screen?
Oh my god! Bloody hell, jinx! How you doing? You alright?
Yeah, not too bad. Same old, as good as we can be at the moment. Just a bit
Yeah,
bored, but
you've
Premier
been.
League's back, so at least I can watch some proper football this weekend.
You been keeping busy music wise?
Well, yeah, relatively. The radio station that I've been, that got set up in 6 months ago.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've literally had two shows a week, which you think an hour show takes an hour. The way that I do it, apparently, it doesn't take an hour because I record it and I listen to it, then I track list it, then I do the voiceovers for it, and it just takes hours. But it's kept me busy.
Yeah, that's the struggle with this. That's what's is the difficult part for me to try and keep consistent. Is not this part. This part's the easy bit for me. It's all the bullshit that comes afterwards where I've got to do all the editing. Honestly, it's a nightmare. Like, these aren't too bad because I don't have to do too much. You know, I just put my intro on, put a little fade outro on these, and that's about it. You know, just export it and bosh, you're done. Whereas with my my rave mixes that I do, it's completely different because like you say, you've got to get the whole track list done, and sometimes like I'll play like a lot of small tracks that maybe got a couple hundred views on the tiny labels, but I like them. But I won't remember the name because I'll be editing it like a week later, and I'm like, shit. So I get on my phone, I'm trying to Shazam it to see if that'll work, and then Shazam doesn't recognize it because it's not that big of a track. So I'm going through all my folders trying to find it. So you got that, and then you got the fact that like I record them in 4K, and so it's a huge file, and my laptop most of the time just shits itself, and it's like, I don't know what to do. It's stressful, man.
Yeah, tech struggles.
Yeah. It's stressful. But have you just been doing like the radio show and things like that, or?
Well, to be honest, there's not a massive amount else we can do. At the beginning, I know Parts has been on, and he was saying about being a bit bored of live streams. Now, I've got my radio show on Saturday and Sunday night at 10 o'clock, but like last night being Friday, I'll play a live stream, which ends up, when I've edited it, being the following Saturday's show.
Okay.
So not the next day. So like the one that I recorded last night won't be tonight's show. It'll be the one after.
Yeah.
So I live stream that, but other than that, I've not been doing random ones like I was a year ago at the beginning of lockdown because it's just a bit sort of pointless now. There was that many live streams as well that smaller DJs, more up and coming DJs don't. I sometimes I get 1 or 2 views on the live, whereas then listeners on the radio show is a little bit different. But for the sake of, I mean, it's one of them. You could look at it in 2 ways, couldn't you? You can say, well, I'm only getting 1 or 2 views. What's the fucking point? Or you can say, well, I was going to DJ anyway, so if someone happens to be watching, there's no right or wrong there, is there?
That's the way I look at it. It's more for me like, I'm particularly recently anyway discovering like a lot of really, really good music that's made me really excited again about the scene. And so I just want to play it for myself, and I'll just stick the camera on and record it anyway. Like there's a couple that I knew were going to do a bit better than my average ones, like when do you know IO?
Yeah.
When he passed away, I did like a tribute mix, and that's probably like, that might be my most watched like rave episode I've done, where it was just all his tracks. But I just wanted to do that for me, like, because I've since listened back to it a lot, just in the car and things like that, just because I like listening to his stuff. And there was not really like any mixes out there that I could find that was like a continuous mix of like his stuff solely. Yeah. He'd played sets, but he'd play other people's stuff as well. So yeah, things like that work. But yeah, I know what you mean. I think for me personally, just like getting your collection together and just picking out your favorite tracks in a moment and playing them. If anyone else comes and watches them, it's a bonus.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny what you said about Io, because I did the same thing where, it was the anniversary of his death, Avicii, Was that 2019 maybe?
March, wasn't it?
I
Or
did it.
was it March?
Yeah,
No,
March or April
end of
time.
April. Yeah, end of April.
Yeah, and someone literally said, because it was like a Monday, Parts actually did one.
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable. And someone asked me to do one on the actual anniversary on a Monday night, and I said, do you know what? I've got fuck all better to do, so I'll just do it.
Yeah.
Let me just put a bit of a playlist together of his stuff, and off we go. And I think that's one of my higher viewed ones on SoundCloud, even though that was when I was a hell of a lot less competent DJing wise. Sometimes a lot of people, I was like, that wasn't great, but it was like 3 hours of these tunes back to back, and people are like, oh, I loved all the tunes, because they're not even, we listen for mixing, but a lot of people, if it's not too far out, they're not that bothered.
No. Well, I think that's the same for most of us. I mean, to begin with, I was like a bit wary when it came to putting out like mixes and stuff like that, because I'd say, I mean, Jesus Christ, I've only been DJing just over 2 years, and I started doing like the rave mixes 9 months after I learned to DJ. So I was quite nervous, and I got a camera on. I'm just thinking in my head, like, people are going to be judging me and all these different things. And so I just started doing them. But as you get more confident with doing them, then obviously you do improve. But it's just the nerves initially. I don't know. I think like similar to a gig in the sense.
I was going to say, I've only ever played one gig, and that was with Parts. That was the after party for Steelyard. So it was Dimitri Vegas and Like Mike, Ben Nicky, Quintino.
Was that 2019? That one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we literally played North Shore Troubadour, like across the road from where the Steelyard was. And
how was that?
And then I got booked for it. That was sick. Like for my first, like, it was only a few hundred people. We warmed up. We left before, probably about 10 minutes into Dimitri Vegas and Like Mike's set. Thought, fuck, this is wank. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go and warm up. So we warmed up for ourselves in an empty club for an hour.
Yeah.
Dicked about. And then as soon as 12 o'clock hit, people started coming in across from there. And we started with 5-10 people in the room and ended up with a full 200-300 people or whatever. I'm not very good at guessing numbers, but I'm going to say that it was packed.
Yeah, of course.
And that was my first experience of DJing live, other than dicking about like house parties and stuff. So to have that and then be booked for warm up on Timmy Trumpet and a Will Sparks gig.
I've seen that. That was a
week after another, and then to have then obviously COVID hit, and we're still waiting.
That was supposed to be in the May, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was May bank holiday, so you had like I think it was like the 24th of May, and then the 30th of May, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I was definitely interested in the I think it was the Timmy Trumpet lineup. Not even so much for him, because I'm not that big of a fan of him. I used to be a bigger fan of him than I am now. But I think it was like Ummet Ozcan, Laidback Luke was on it.
Brennan Hart maybe as well at the time.
Yes. And there's someone else that I'm forgetting the name of. But I did really want to go to that gig. That was a real bummer. That didn't happen. But
it would have been good, because I got a feeling now, because the event itself has moved to Hard Generation, which is the Darren Styles tour. So I've got a feeling with all the travel restrictions and stuff, it's going to be Darren Styles and support. But I'm not sure yet. I've not had any inside info. And if I had, I wouldn't be able to share it yet until it's
yeah, of course. Yeah, no, it's difficult. Well, how long have you been DJing for?
Probably about the same amount of time as you.
Okay.
I'll give you a bit more of a backstory in terms of I've been into music probably most of my life. When I was in high school, I was listening to Capital FM, to all the chavvy clublandy stuff that was on there at the time. Then I had a phase where I thought I was an MC, but I wasn't, and I wasn't very good at it. But I listened to a lot of rap, like even like the Tim Westwood stuff. I was into that at the time, and then 2009, I went to my first Creamfields when I was, again, 18, first one down the road.
Wow.
I'm probably 20 minutes away. You can hear it from my mum and dad's house when it's on. And that's when I literally, I didn't know anyone apart from probably Tiesto was the dance name that I knew. But obviously, how many artists are at Creamfields over a 2-3 day weekend at the time back then? So I literally just got the lineup when it was announced and just started Google or YouTube, put it in. That's that person. I had no idea there was so much different type of dance music. So I downloaded loads of music and realised half of it was definitely not what I wanted to listen to. And then it sort of moved through. So then my first, then my mates, I say mates, a few of my mates, and then the people that you meet that become your mates.
Yeah.
You start camping together. I was watching all these big DJs. I know you're massive into hardware like me. He was one of the first ones that I was like, I like this stuff.
Yeah.
And I started putting my own mixes together, but it was it was a door called Mixcraft. So no one knows what it is, but I came across it and I taught myself how to use that quite well, considering it's not a great bit of kit, but it did the job.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a clue about music theory. I knew what tunes to play that were big at the time. I knew about BPMs changing. I didn't know about key. I learned about key about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And so the mix themselves, some of my mates would be like, oh, it's quite good, that. And I was dead proud of them. And they were shit. But I got to Tomorrowland 2018, worked there 18 and 19.
That was your first year, was it?
So yeah, I worked there both times, 2018, 2019. So that's how I managed to get blag a free ticket, but I had to do a bit of work for it.
Damn.
Nothing glamorous. I was a glorified recycle man. But
anything to get there, mate.
Personally, I wouldn't want to do anything else. Like, if you said, do you want to go just as a punter? I'd be like, nah, I enjoyed the day and then managing to go into the festival at night.
Yeah. Well, those were my 2 years that I went. I never went before then. It was 2018 and 19, the second weekends. Yeah. But yeah, immense experience.
Oh yeah, it's a different, I would say it's a different planet, but it's a different dimension, isn't it? It
is a different planet in the sense that you're like, this doesn't feel like I'm on the same place as where I live. Like, this feels like a different world.
It's like, it might sound really, really poncy of me, but if there was, when people say a place is magical, I'd be like, oh, fuck off, whatever. But Tomorrowland, you get it. Because you're like, actually, I do feel like you've got the marching band going around Dreamville in the morning, playing Don't You Worry Child and Wake Me Up. And then you got flower girls handing out actual flowers to people in tents. It's like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I wish everybody in the world could experience that place at some point, because damn, I think we'd have a much happier place.
Yeah. You never see any animosity at Tomorrowland.
No. Well, this goes back to what I've always said about the dance music community and why I love it so much, is because I don't think I've ever seen a fight at a rave. Well, no, I have never seen a fight at a rave or a festival or whatever. Yes, you get the odd bellend at Creamfields that does something because they're a tit, but there's 100,000 people there plus.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You're gonna get the odd knob, but like, this is the thing that the argument I've always had with, the average person who don't maybe go to raves. They just like going to the local nightclub and getting pissed up every weekend, where they say to me, oh, you go to raves and where all the drugged up people are, and it's like, well, actually they're really nice people compared to what you find in your average club, which is a load of knobs that are just Well, yeah, they're just that. They're there not to have a good time. But a lot of the time you just end up with tons of fights all over the place. It's shit atmosphere.
Well, it's all like you were saying this on one of the other episodes with I think it was the one with Parts, where you go to a rave and you're all connected by that same I want to be there for this thing, whether it's a particular artist or artists or the type of music. Whereas a night out at the local club is all unconnected groups of people who probably don't have the same opinion of certain things, which causes
shit. Yeah. I think I don't know. I feel like when the first time I walked into a rave, and it's the same as the last time I walked into a rave, everyone's equal. There's no sort of judging. You don't have to be too serious or whatever. We're all just there to enjoy, the moment. Whereas to me, the opposite is said for your average club, where it's very sort of judgmental, look at the guy in the booth or whatever, and the guy with the Gucci belts and the fucking girls with the certain handbags and things like that. It's like, leave all that shit at the door, come in and have fun.
Yeah, well, it's that whole why the fuck are you dressed as a dinosaur compared to at a festival it'd be what's the dinosaur's name, or what, do you know what I mean? It's just completely different, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think that's it. Sometimes life is too serious. We've got work, we've got bills, we've got all these different things that we need to take care of, and sometimes we just need to, in our downtime, the Friday, Saturday nights, be able to go into a place, a sanctuary, you could say, like a rave, where you just let all the bullshit go for an evening. Which is why I hope that one day the clubs will return to how they used to be, a bit more rave orientated. But
yeah, right. Everything's too commercial at the moment. Yeah. It does me head in. I can't stand it.
Well, I mean, this is something that probably a lot of people who know me well will know. I haven't listened to the radio in probably 10 years because it's just garbage to me. Like, I've got to be honest with you. The only way that I find out what's the big pop tracks or the big, the big chart tracks at the moment is if someone's done a remix of it.
It's either a remix or in a live set. They've done it in a mashup.
Yeah, that's literally how I find out what's the track that's got like 100 million views, 500 million views at the moment that's blowing up in the world. Is if Tiesto, like you say, does a mashup or someone does a big room remix of it or something. It doesn't even have to be a big room remix. It can be any type. But
if and EDM, which obviously is fucking so vast, it could be anything.
Massive world, but yeah, that's the thing. I wonder sometimes if it's just me. Like, is everyone else in the dance community like in touch with it all? Or
yeah, no, when we're talking commercial radio, I'm the same. Not listen to. I wouldn't be like, oh, put Radio 1 if they had a big guest mix by someone maybe, but other than that, I don't just say put that on. But what's good that's coming out now is your dance music stations. You've got I know Electric Radio is one. The one that I'm on now, Loop. You've got Tomorrowland, One World Radio. Revealed have now got a 24-hour one. A State of Trance. Those sort of things, I think they're starting to do what commercial are doing, but specifically for what we want.
Yeah, I mean, I used to listen to the Danny Howard, like BBC One radio. I think it was like Saturday nights. It would be like really late. Was
4 or 5 o'clock, I think he started, and he did 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, and there was
Dance Anthems, wasn't it? It was. I'm sure it was just called Danny Howard's Dance Anthems,
something like that. And I remember, I think he had like Diplo on one time, and that was really good. And I was just listening to it because I used to like drive my mates to the club I wouldn't drink, and so I'd be the allocated driver or whatever, and I'd just stick that on. And sometimes I get some really, really good tracks in that I hadn't heard before. And it was nice to see that. But it's like, why the fuck is this on in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
and then
it was quite nice that time as well, where that was when I was really I carried on from downloading every fucking DJ's music because I didn't have a clue who anyone was or what music it was.
Yeah.
A few years later, when I was into it and I knew names, I was sort of saying to my mates who aren't into dance music, "Oh, have you heard this new song by Sebastian Ingrosso?" And they're like, "Who the fuck's that?" But then Reload gets on Radio 1.
Yeah.
And that, like, those moments, and then when Don't You Worry Child, like the big EDM ones that are popular, If I Lose Myself, when they're getting on the radio, then I'm like, this is what I like listening to. And they're like, it's all right. I'm like, what do you mean all right? It's a masterpiece.
Yes. Oh my God, honestly. See, this is the thing as well. Like, again, I think this is something that we'll probably connect on. Like you say, you'll hear certain dance tracks and you go, this is a masterpiece. Like, how did they create this? And then you'll listen to some shit on the radio like that WAP or whatever. And then you put the two to a person and you go, look how good this is. And they go,
Yeah, they want to do some stupid dance. And that won a Grammy, apparently. How does a song like that about a vagina be something that's actually a well put together piece of art? Like, I don't get it.
I see. I like to be hopeful about humanity when I go to places like Tomorrowland.
The world's fucked.
But then a bit of me dies inside when I hear shit like that, and I'm like.
But at the same time, another way of thinking about it, if I'm going to try and be like all positive, is at least knobheads who like that aren't going to be in our space when we're allowed to go out.
But this brings me on to another thing as well, and I might be getting a bit ranty here, but I feel like certain artists in the dance community kind of feed into that shit, and to me, there is one artist that stands out as doing it the most, in the sense that they just jump on trends and they'll do whatever's sort of fun at them. I mean, there's a couple, but there's one in particular that bugs me. Well, fuck it, I might as well say them both. Timmy Trumpet and Dimitri Vegas Like Mine.
Yeah.
I think they just jump on the bandwagon wherever it's going. And Timmy Trumpet, when he came out on Tomorrowland main stage with that Vitus guy and did that shit, I was like,
do you know what?
What is this?
I heard you talking about this the other day, and I had a chuckle to myself because I thought, I hope he brings that up, because I fucking love that, but I like a bit of cheese. So
I like it
from a quality point of view, it was bollocks. But when I'm pissed up at Tomorrowland, having the time of my life, I was like, it's the fucking Alton Towers theme tune in hard style.
Yeah, I don't know. I can have a laugh if it's Salvatore Ganacci because he does it in a funny way. But to me, I was like, this isn't even funny. Like, this is just making us a laughing stock. I was like, it's embarrassing. I was like, that if it's done right, it can come off brilliantly. Hence why Ganacci, he's fucking hilarious to watch. Like, I seen him 2019 on the main stage, and he started.
When he was in the crowd.
He was in the crowd. Look, I was at the top of the hill, and the cameras showed down, and I could see where he was. He was in his little blue tracksuit, and then he hopped up. And the things that he does, like, he pulls it off like it's really funny and entertaining. But sometimes I just think like, oh. Like it's like when Dimitri Vegas Like Mike did was it like a Pokemon theme song or something like that?
Oh God, some of the stuff that comes out now, I'm like, you could have made something good of that, but you've made it really, really like over the top cheesy. Like, I like a bit of let's drop a bit of Venga Boys on a serious drop just as a laugh, but then no more. Whereas their shit's just cheese all the way through.
Garbage. It's and that's the problem. Is at one time I think they did make, well, they had some really good tracks. Like one of my favorite ones is the Lost Frequencies remix they did. What Is Love?
What Is Love? Yeah,
that was brilliant. There was that, obviously the W&W collabs that they've done.
Ocarina,
yeah.
Tremor with Garrix.
Yeah,
and the first one I ever heard was Wakanda, Swedish House Mafia played it when they started getting really big.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't even fucking make it. It was Vorwerk, Ghost producer.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that bugs me. I don't think much of what they've released is made by them, but then it confused me a bit because I don't know if you've seen recently Vegas put out a solo track.
Yeah, which is completely different to fucking anything else.
But I actually really liked it.
Both of them. So Dimitri Vegas, that was his first one, and that was quite housey, wasn't it? But then like Mike's done quite a lot of like hip hoppy sort of stuff where he raps on it.
Anything by him.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't bother. Don't waste your time. I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but I can't fucking stand that.
Yeah. But this is the thing with like Timmy Trumpet is like at one time, like I really liked him. Like I say, you know, Freaks came out and the big W&W edit. I fell in love with that. And then Narco, sick track. There's a lot of really good stuff he had. But then all of a sudden he goes hardstyle and then psytrance. What's this fucking mix with hardstyle and psytrance and
it's like hard psy, isn't it?
Yeah, but like a big room DJ goes into hard style and sign. It's like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'll play a bit of sign hard style myself, but when you just, it seems like they're just going with whatever's there at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not fully on board with it. Like, I couldn't go to a hard style festival and listen to the same genre like that hard all day every day for 2-3 days. But where some DJs, the one that I bring up, Will Be Hardwell, sort of play your big room and progressive set and then finish with that, or have one dropped in somewhere, it's not too bad.
No,
but it's got to be within the flow.
But this is it. I think it works as a cherry on the top, but if you just got a bowl full of cherries, then it's like,
yeah.
Like I went to the what you call it, the Q dance stage, I think it was at Tomorrowland, and it was like a Saturday afternoon, like things had just opened. It was like 2:00, and I just walked around the corner. I could hear this thundering bass. It was just like bom 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 bom. I'm like, fuck me, guys, it's 2:00.
To be fair, that was my first experience of proper live hardstyle.
Yeah,
I'd seen a little bit of like Hardwell dropping the odd one or two at the end of a set.
Yeah.
But that was my first hardstyle set. I went to see the Tweakers, missed them because we just finished work. Finished work about 4:00. Half an hour walk to the festival, innit, from Dreamville.
Yeah.
Got changed, had a couple of beers, and then got in.
Yeah.
Missed the Tweakers, so Sub-Zero were just coming on.
Okay.
And I'd heard of them, but didn't know any of the music or anything. Yeah. I was doing the fucking Macarena to it for half an hour, and then I was like, right, that's enough now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I seen them. What fuck? I seen them last year. You know, when they played Hellfire. Yeah. That's mad. That is that we went to a gig like that big, that close to when everything shut down. Well, we was probably in the biggest gig in the country. Like, that close to the shutdown. Like, that was mad.
Yeah, I know there were a couple after that, but I don't think they were on that Victoria Warehouse scale.
No. Well, that Ministry had like a few more weeks of playing, but I don't know of anywhere that comes close in terms of size to what that was. But yeah, interesting kind of looking back at it. But yeah, I seen Sub-Zero at the warehouse there, and I was really impressed because I think they came on like 4:30.
Yeah, because there was one after, wasn't there? Murdoch. Fucking hell.
Yeah, that was too much.
That's that's a whole new level of heavy.
Yeah, I was like, time to go to bed. It's like that GPS.
I mean, it was about 6 a.m, so I think it's acceptable at that point.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that kind of blew me away when I went to Tomorrowland and I walked around from that around the corner and that Q dance stage was there, and you just got all these fucking people just going nuts, like bom bom bom. And you think, damn, you guys are going to do this for the next 12 hours.
Yeah, you think that's one day at Tomorrowland and one stage, and you can just branch off. Imagine being at that hard. Is it Q dance? Is it the whole?
I'm pretty sure it's Q dance. Yeah.
It's
all the Q dance.
That one in Holland. DEFCON, that's it.
Yeah.
And it's just that all day, every day for 2-3 days. Like.
Yeah. No, like
too much.
Sometimes, like some people who are into the raves, like some of my mates say to me, oh, when they see the, the crowd control at DEF CON, they go, oh. And
Yeah, I've
go,
seen a video of
imagine
that.
how
It
mad
does
be
look
to be
pretty
there.
sick.
And then I think, yeah, it'd be sick, but then could I hack that for 3-4 days of 12 hours like that? I don't know. Because I don't know.
I need my eardrums for later in life.
Yeah. I want to save it for the big room in the house and things like that. You know what I mean? But so yeah, you say you started slowly sort of DJing and whatnot, and then you played this first initial gig. How did you sort of go forwards then with getting bookings and getting this gig that you just mentioned?
Well, to be honest, like I said, I fell on my feet. I mean, I've been into it for years, which we've done that bit of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Started DJing. I went to Tomorrowland in 2018. Played one of my mixes in the crew campsite, and one of the lads that I know from Belfast, who I've played a few of his tunes, is Gerard Francis, top guy, really like Ollie James sort of sound.
Okay.
So a bit heavier, but that big room trance, harder sort of sound.
Big room at 132 kind of thing.
Well, he does do some higher 140, 150 stuff as well, but
okay, got you.
But it's not quite hard style, but it is quite
Maurice
hard.
West does it as well, like 140, 150 BPM.
Yeah, because he loves the rave culture sound, so it's all sort of fits in with
that.
that.
Yeah.
But he was like, why don't you just get some decks? And I went, well, I've wanted to do it for ages, but it's one of them things that you sort of think, I ain't gonna be any good at that, or I won't be able to stick that out. Got back from Tomorrowland, got on, and one of probably the only good thing about, in fact, two good things about lockdown. Number one is I've had time to DJ a lot more because I'm not working as much.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one is the fact that right now there's football on like every day, apart from the international breaks. But yeah, music-wise, I've been able to not only practice DJing, but learn a lot more about it. So I've watched more sets and studied like the set structures, or I've watched tutorials literally on YouTube of here's how to do this skill or whatever. And it might not be directly DJing, it might be the music industry or like a little production technique. Like I'm not a producer. As close as I've got is like making my own mashups. It was that Mixcraft, and now it's Ableton. So I'm starting to learn bits and bobs, but I haven't got on to making my own like tracks from scratch yet.
Yeah. So, sorry, going back to it a little bit, how did you go about getting the next gigs from that first?
Right, so it was networking and luck, because I recognize now that while the world's a bit different for us guys in dance music, you've got to go out and earn your bookings. Basically, you've got to. Well, one thing I have been able to do is network a lot. So I know so many DJs of that aren't the big DJs now that are up and coming in a similar position to myself, or maybe 2, 3, 4 years ahead of me, that are sort of saying you need to have your social media like professional, not just have it. It's got to have structure. It's got to look clean. It's got to have your logo on it, have a good bio, that sort of stuff. I think matters. Contacting and how you contact venues. I've not really done any promo mixes specifically for a place yet. Well, maybe one before lockdown. But now that's something where I'm like, well, places are starting to open. The weather's starting to get better. Beer gardens are open in the UK from next Monday. So why not I start putting some housey, commercially sort of sets together, because I know that I'm not going to be able to play big room at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon in the local pub.
Yeah.
So that's how I would go about it. But going to your original question, how did I get it? You know, when you have the Monday blues, and it was about lunchtime, and I got a message from someone that had helped out at the Darren Styles Hellfire gig, handed some leaflets out. There's a bit of networking for you. Get a message, not not are you free on this day, or would you like that? It was, I've booked you for Timmy Trumpet. Or for,
Oh, nice.
I was like, what?
Yeah,
Are you joking?
Yeah.
Next message, can you send me a promo pic for your artist card? I'm like, how's my first 2 gigs been? An after party, unofficial after party, but for Steelyard, and then Victoria Warehouse, where I've been going as a punter for years.
Yeah.
So for me, I do think there's probably things that I did in terms of acted giddy as fuck and passionate.
Yeah.
The way I spoke about it, they could tell that I loved it. But yeah, I do think it was almost right place, right time.
Yeah. Well, I think you're in a similar position to me in the sense that, like you say, you know, building up in gigs and sort of building up your name. Do you produce by any chance, or are you solely focused on the DJing side of things for now?
So for me, it seems like a natural progression. It's definitely something that I plan on doing, but sort of haven't got round to it yet. But I'm massive on mashups. Like if I listen to a song and think, oh, I fucking love that drop, or I love that breakdown, but then the drop's wank, can I put those two together? Or if that breakdown's a little bit boring, can I replace it with a popular tune like Magenti, and then build back up into the drop? That sort of thing. I'm big on that. So that's taught me a few things about production in terms of like some of the effects you can put on. Like if you slam an a cappella on an instrumental and it doesn't quite, even though it's in key, it doesn't quite sit right, and you put a little bit of reverb on it, then it can blend, it can gel them together a lot more. So little things like that I've learned, but I've not gone on to my own stuff yet.
Well, that brings me on to the question then of, do you think you need to produce to be successful as a DJ?
Yeah, I thought you might ask this one. Well, the easy answer would be it depends. But my thoughts on it are, I think that if you want to take yourself to that top level, yes, you do need to produce your own music, because if you have a solo show or you're on a lineup and people want to come to see you, they probably want to hear your music. But I think in the build up to that top level, you can get away, and I say get away with, you can probably make a bit of a living on just playing other people's tunes, which is what I'm currently doing. But I do think that there's levels, and that top level, if you want to be a headliner, even if it's not a massive festival, if you want to be a headliner on any lineup, you probably need your own music, or at least your own style is the minimum.
Yeah, because I think you've got DJs that go about things differently. You know, W&W play mostly their tracks, but then they'll throw in a few others. Third party, almost exclusive, play their own stuff. But then you've got a lot of DJs where 90% of what they play is other DJs' tracks, and they maybe don't release that much. But yeah, I definitely think, me personally, that a lot of people could get to the top, but it's just how they go about doing it, and you know,
I think identity.
Yeah.
Identity's massive. If I played pretty much only big room, and it was a blend of, let's go with the big ones, it was a blend of Hardwell, Blasterjacks, Bassjackers, that sort of sound, and that's all I did, and I became known as the guy that plays big room sets exclusively, then you've got a certain audience who love big room that would want to go and see that sort of stuff. But without that identity, you're a little bit more hit and miss.
I get what you mean in terms of like the subgenre that you play. I think you've obviously got to be a little bit consistent with that. Because like I think there's I don't know, maybe DJs, but labels. Like I always take the example of Revealed, where they've always been known, obviously, for Hardwell and for the big room stuff. And then they just took a complete turn. I don't know how long ago it was, where they started just putting out almost exclusively bass house stuff. And it's like,
yeah, it's odd. It's a strange one, and I'd love to say I know why, or be able to even find out, but I've got fucking no idea. It's not logical, is it? But
to me, that's them completely changing their identity.
Yeah, and there's nothing necessarily to say that you can't change your identity, but the whole argument about and sort of upcoming of like aliases is an odd one as well, where I get if you're well known for one thing, one type of music, and you want to do something completely different for a different scenario, because like I've got well known at doing big room, but I quite like playing house sets. You can just separate them.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of like blurring of like, well, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think most of us would get sort of, I don't know how to put it. I love big room, and big room is probably always going to be my number one in terms of my subgenre that I love the most in dance music. But I will always want a bit of other things as well. Like I love the electro stuff, but then I also love the progressive stuff. Love progressive. I like a bit of hardstyle. I like a bit of psytrance. I also like a bit of like the more tribal carnival sort of stuff that you hear coming out of Brazil and that sort of style. So I like to change things up a bit and keep it fresh, because I think there's a lot of guys out there that eventually they will have a bit of a burnout where they just get fed up and they go, fuck this, I'm off. I think that's maybe what happened with Hardwell, where he got so sick of playing big room and he'd been doing it for so long. I think maybe the sort of last two-ish years that he was touring, he started making different stuff to big room that he'd not really made before, with like the what did he call them? I think they were like collaboration albums or something, where he had like
Henry. I know what you mean, because I was in Miami in 2017 at Ultra, and his set there was probably showcasing a lot of what he had on that collab album, and he had like Henry Fong with a bit of like Moonbaton and stuff like that.
To me, I think that was him getting fed up of just constantly making big room and playing big room, and I think that was like, I don't want to say like the beginning of the end, but like that was like, to me, showing that I want to do something else. I'm sick of being in this box. And
I always found it interesting with Hardwell that he was. Some people say it's a good thing, some people say it's bad. I quite like how skilled he is, and yes, he'd have learned from those collaborations. So he'd do one with an Army Van Buren one, then he'd do Henry Fong and do Moonbaton. But he probably learned quite a lot about a lot of different genres and production techniques to end up coming up with them, and then he can take that forward. Well, he hasn't done, but he could take that forward in the future if he comes back.
Yeah, that was another thing as well that was kind of confusing to me, is when he said he was stopping touring, I thought, okay, well, we're still going to be hearing lots of tracks from him. And he's not really released anything, has he? I mean,
No,
he did go to war, and that was after he'd stopped touring. I think that was end of 2019, was it? And then he did that Jackswell thing as well, and that's about as much as I know.
Yeah, well, as far as I'm concerned, I found out about him and Blaster Jacks doing this thing probably at the beginning of this year, and I was buzzing because they're my two of my favourite big room, or of the biggest big room DJs. So that was exciting. Heard the ID, which had been bandied about for a few months. Like it. So now I'm just hoping that. I think one of the big problems is because of COVID, it's changed timelines and decisions for people. Afrojack mentioned recently that he's probably sitting on, but not releasing any big festival tunes until he's allowed to play them out live, because what's the fucking point?
It's a difficult one because you've got that, but then you've got guys like Rave Culture, which are churning out more big room than ever. And it's like,
yeah. But then, like, one of my battles that I have in my head about that is that quality over quantity? And I'm not like, some of those releases are unreal, and I always play Rave Culture stuff, but some of them sound so generic. It's like, oh, that's just another, like, that'll be forgotten about in 2 weeks' time. So for me, it's finding that balance, because we mentioned like those big timeless tunes like Don't You Worry Child, If I Lose Myself, that are still mint now, years later. I mean, what, nearly 10 years later, Don't You Worry Child, that was about 2012, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas now, I can't see a lot of these tunes being played in 10 years. In terms of what, all right, let me rephrase that. If you, in 10 years' time, if you go, that is still a timeless big room tune. This, in the same way that, like,
it's going to be timeless to the artists themselves and their fans. But, like, for example, I think that's almost the same with any track you can apply that to. Like, you look at Spaceman, that's one of the biggest tracks ever in the dance scene, and I don't think it's timeless unless Hardwell's playing it.
I suppose I can see what you're coming. In my mind, it was like 2014 Tremor comes out, Garrix and DVLM. For me now, this, like, 2021, that's still, you hear that and you go, that's a fucking timeless big room tune. Freaks is another one where you recognize it straight away, even though it's not quite 10 years old. It's that sort of. And I question sometimes some of these tunes that are coming out week after week after week. Every single week, Rave Culture get a new one out. Sometimes I just think, that's all right, I like it, but I'll probably forget about it in a few weeks' time. It might not stay relevant in my sets for a longer time, like some of the tunes would.
I see what you say. I think, though, I think it's a person by person basis, in the sense that, like, yes, I agree with you, but, like, there is certain ones out there, like W&W did a mashup of Saber's track with Ritual.
Emerta.
Yes. Now, I'm going to be playing that at the gigs when I get back, and I'm probably going to play that for a very long time because it's unreal. I don't know if it maybe is just the fact that it's mashed up with, a fairly well-known track, and it works really well. But there's certain tracks that I've also got saved aside that I'm not going to play until sort of gigs come back again, that I think I will play forever. Like, there's certain tracks that I played at Ministry that are not very well known, but I will play them forever because they are unreal.
And they go off. Thing is, as well, I think, like I said, I've got like next to no experience of playing in front of a crowd. I had that one gig with Parts, and then a few house parties. And there was one moment where, like, probably my biggest moment where I could read the crowd. And when I say read the crowd, you'll understand why. I dropped is it the Mark 6 for bootleg of Insomnia in a kitchen with 27 people. And the place went, everyone stopped what they're doing. Everyone went fucking mad. And that's something that worked.
Yeah.
but then you could always do something different with that. So yeah, I know completely understand what you're saying there.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because, like, again, people say like, oh, I can understand when people say Spaceman's timeless and Don't You Worry Child is timeless, but like, for me personally, anyway, like, I think the vast majority of people in the dance music scene absolutely obsess over Don't You Worry Child and they love it. It was never that big for me. Like, I was never a massive fan of it. I preferred other tracks like that were nowhere near as big, like Antidote. That was the one for me. Like
Antidote
one was class as well. They were so much better than Don't You Worry Child to me. And when everyone starts screaming at the festival when they hear it, it ain't the same thing for me at all.
I think Don't You Worry Child is so much bigger for more people.
Yeah.
Because it was in the charts. It was a vocal one that you can sing along to. I understand and agree with like everything. I think everything Swedish House Mafia have done, the instrumental, Greyhound, like you said, Antidote, even the Axwell and Grosso We Come We Rave We Love, I quite like that sort of stuff. So I completely know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I don't know. It's just like, again, this is another thing. I feel like a lot of my choices are fairly different to what a lot of people in the scene love. Like when, you know, the one track I constantly hear people talk about is If I Lose Myself, Alesso. Whereas for me, Alesso's best track is Calling, by far.
Yeah, I've got a tattoo here saying Goosebumps Never Lie, and it's literally about that song. I'm quite an emotional, like, it could be good. Like a lot of the time with Calling, I've got good memories with it. I remember once I was sat at home on a Saturday morning watching an Alesso set from Tomorrowland, and the build-up starts coming in, and I just welled up, and I was like, I fucking love this song.
Yeah, yeah. But that's it. It's difficult, like you say, trying to sort of put a label on something that's timeless, because there's different tracks that are timeless to different people for different things. Like I say, there's a lot of the tracks that most people in the dance community won't have ever heard of that are like tiny, you know, big room track that Hardwell played on Hardwell on Air in 2012 that's got like 900 views on YouTube. But that track is immense, and I've made some really good memories for me. And that track to me will always be timeless.
Yeah, no, that's a good way of looking at it, because there will be. I know there's songs in my library that, or tracks, big room tracks that I love, but most people will never have heard. But I think because I've known about it for so long, it's so old, and I've liked it for that long. It's almost a staple in, like, that's a go-to for me.
Yeah, I hear what you mean by that. Well, let's start with here you go. Obviously you've only played, like you say, this gig initially with Parts. What would be besides this upcoming gig, supposedly with the Timmy Trumpet one, what would be like the next step forward for you?
I suppose it would be getting my own booking for something like that. It doesn't even have to be that big. Like, I almost feel like I've been lucky to miss a few steps along the way to actually get that Timmy booking by being in the right place at the right time. But I suppose that is the thing. I've been going Victoria Warehouse for donkey's years now, and to have been booked for that, it's half ticked off until I get to actually play it. But that's I actually think lower down the line, like down the rung of the ladder, there should be other things that I've got to do in between. But if I manage to fall on my feet and play gig number 1 and then gig number 2's at proper gig number 2's at Victoria Warehouse, that's me happy until I've done that a few times, built experience up, and then you're looking right in the sky.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. What do you think is the next subgenre to sort of blow up?
Well, it's got to be future rave, hasn't it? It's already blowing up, isn't it?
Do you think it's
The
going
other
to
one,
blow up like psytrance?
it might. I think short term, yes, because I've already heard. Obviously, you got the David Guetta and Morton. Sort of, they've popularized it, and now a lot of other people are sort of making stuff in that style. I think there's a big crossover at the moment with like Will Sparks and Maddox are doing almost like a crossover of Big Room and Tech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I literally just call it Big Room Tech.
Mm.
Again, that's another trend, but whether they stick around, I don't know. I think the staples we've talked a lot about Big Room, progressive, trance, hardstyle even. They're going to stick around because they've got an audience. I'm not sure personally what other things will end up becoming such a sort of a staple. These are your big genres. I don't know what the next one is going to end up being. Like I said, in the short term, you can hear changes in trends, but I couldn't hazard a guess at what's going to end up being there. Like I said, short term, Big Room Tech and future rave, but I don't know whether they'll cement the place over time.
Yeah. What's the first EDM track that sort of made an impact on you?
I'm possibly going to say Adagio for Strings.
Mm-hmm.
The Tiesto, obviously the Tiesto one that he's played at the end of pretty much every gig that he ever done. And that was because, like I said, Tiesto was my first Creamfields. Tiesto was the one name that I know that guy is. I know what he does. And he probably my first memory of a festival was the end of the weekend when he dropped that, and there's just fireworks going off, there's confetti in the sky, and you just sort of take a moment and go, this is fucking good, isn't it?
Yeah, man. So you'd say it was Adagio?
Yeah, I think so.
And then have you sort of, is that where things grew for you? Like you started following Tiesto and that's how your sort of taste was built?
Possibly. I mean, I remember probably the year after that. So again, I've learned a little bit, but not much on who's who. Went to a little trio of DJs in a tent called Swedish House Mafia that I'd never fucking heard of. And then they took over because Tiesto is obviously a huge name. He's like Armin van Buuren, Carl Cox. They're all Fatboy Slim. They've all been around for years, haven't they? But then I got this Swedish House Mafia, and then I suppose the more I looked at them, then you start looking at the set lists, and I wonder what song that was. Oh, that was by Dimitri Vegas and Like Mike, Wakanda. Start watching a set of theirs, and then you start. I suppose you start branching out and learning. Okay, that song was by that person. I quite like their music. I'll watch one of the sets, and it just sort of all went from there. I've been a bit of a geek really over the last few years with it because I always wanted to know what the next song was. So I'm watching it on TV, and I'm like, what's this track? 1001 track list. Start studying, like I said, what other tracks has that artist done? Why are they in that sort of order, or why do them two go next to each other? Well, and then you start to, I suppose, just experience-wise, you start to get a good idea of, okay, now I'm actually behind a set of decks. These are in key or not in key, depending on what you fancy. But I know that will follow that one quite well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Who is your biggest inspiration?
It's between two. So I will tell you two, but I think if I had to pick one, it would be Hardwell.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is Swedish House Mafia, because obviously how much they popularized the EDM scene, because they had, like, Don't You Worry Child, for example, we've talked about, got in the charts. People are like, oh, I do know that who those people are, sort of. I might go to Creamfields instead of Leeds.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the way that they brought the dance music scene, or the EDM scene, to the world,
Mm-hmm.
And popularized it, that's why I might have picked them. But I think Hardwell, because of his consistency, I listen to Hardwell on air from like episode 100 pretty much every week.
Me too. That's when I started.
So I was fucking devastated when 500. That's it. Like,
yeah, and
oh, what am I going to fucking do
that was the mad thing for me as well. Is like he didn't make a big hoo-ha about it. He literally just said on the last track, and yep, that's everything. See you later, guys. It was like, what?
Yeah,
you're gonna leave us like that?
Yeah, it baffled me, because there was no sort of build up to it. It just happened, and then we're all sort of sat here going, like a week later, did you hear that Hardwell on Air isn't a thing anymore? What? Is it not?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even like shared, or oh my God, R.I.P. Hardwell on Air.
Yeah.
There was fucking nothing. It just sort of went.
It was mad, because like I think the vast majority of people I know, and certainly for me, it's probably the reason A, I'm into dance music so much, but B, I have a lot of knowledge about dance music, is because almost every artist I know because of him, through Hardwell on Air. You know, Sonny James, Ryan Marciano, when they was making electro on Spinning. All these different artists, almost artists that are still around, artists that have gone and aren't around anymore. I know them all because of that, and that's the same for most of us. So for such a big sort of important part of the scene, just to go and just, it was just,
yeah. For me, it was iconic, and it was like my radio show that I do on a Saturday night is called Ben's Beats, and it's almost come from, well, I say almost, it's almost 100% come from Hardwell on Air, because he brought you an hour of new music every week. And I wanted to be able to do that for other people anyway.
Yeah.
And then for the fact that he's jibbed it, I was like, I can do that, but where do I get my new music now?
Well, yeah, funnily enough, that was a similar thing with me. I've always listened to his stuff, but I've never. Usually, I'd get my sources from him, and then I have like a list of labels that I go through on their YouTube channel and just go through all the different tracks. But I've never actually bothered listening to any of the other radio shows, which is what I'm now doing, and I'm really enjoying. Like, I've never really listened to Protocol Radio. I'm now listening to all of them. I'm really enjoying them. Same with Musical Freedom.
Yeah, I've got a few go-tos, and they have changed over the years. I suppose depending on style. Like, I did used to listen to like Oliver Heldens, Martin Garrix, because he's a big name. But I found that what they play on the radio station is obviously linked to the label.
Yeah.
And it's a bit too different to what I want from it. Whereas your rave culture radio, Nicky Romero, State of Trance, Afrojack, I'm not listening to as much anymore, because again, that's taking a bit of a change of direction in terms of it's a bit more housey rather than
I'm
your
not a
big festival tunes.
No. Yeah, I'm not as fan of him as I used to be. I've really loved the sort of turn that Nicky Romero's took, and he's making like a lot of different styles and sounds, and I really, really like it. It's really
nice. I just love Nicky. Well, I'm massive. We've talked loads about Big Room, but I'm massive in progressive as well. Like, I think the emotions that can come from, like, if we just take third party as an example, like the way you feel there, it's just euphoric, happy, sad, whatever. You can do that with progressive music, and take people on a journey. And I think Nicky Romero's really good at that. Like, that's for me what Nicky Romero is about. And yes, he's done a few different styles, and he's got an alias now, Molecule. But I think his big festival, progressive, happy tunes, they just make me like put him on at 6, 7 o'clock on the Saturday at Creamfields before the massive headliners on, and you're on to a winner there.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. I don't know. It's going back to Hardwell again, but like Creamfields it didn't quite feel the same. And I think was it 19? Because he last played in 18, I was thinking. Was it 18?
Hardwell.
Yeah, we played late.
Yeah, he was 18 was his last one. And his last song was fucking Aha, Take On Me.
What was it? Oh, yes, I remember.
It was almost, he either planned it because apparently us Brits just love a bit of cheese, which I cannot disagree with personally. But it was almost like he ran out of time to play something that he wanted to play. So he had to sort of fill a minute or two. So he played Jungle Is Massive into that.
Yeah.
And some people, like myself, absolutely loved it. And then loads of people lost loads of respect for him and was like, what the fuck is he doing?
Yeah, I was in that crowd. Yeah. That was like his last big gig. Like I think he did 1 or 2 club gigs in Germany.
Yeah.
But that was it. Like that was his last big gig. Yeah, it was a weird one to end on. But I don't know. Do you reckon we'll see a return?
I don't want to stick my neck out. I would like to think so. Based on the fact, again, I think COVID fucked up what was meant to happen. It might not have been the case, but personally, I think he probably would have come back to Ultra 2020.
Yeah.
And then obviously that got cancelled because of COVID, and then nothing's happened since then. So is he still just sitting waiting for his big comeback? Because he did it at Tomorrowland, didn't he, in 2018? Didn't play there for 5 years.
Yeah.
And then that intro with I'm not fucking leaving. And I just went, this is one of the best things ever.
Yeah. It was like, oh, imagine if he had just waited another year and a half until he had his break. Because now we're all a year break or whatever from festivals and all that stuff. That would have been it if he had been able to carry on for another year and a half. I mean, obviously it's one of those, sometimes you don't want to push it too much because, look where Avicii ended up. We don't want that happening again. So
it's a fine balance between what we want. Well, I say it's a fine balance. It's none of our fucking choice.
Yeah.
Yes, we want to see him. Yes, we love him. But at the end of the day, he knows in his head, right, I'm ready to come back, or I'm not. And if I do go back, I'm going to end up hurting myself.
Yeah, it's got to be sensible at the same time. I think it's like it's not the same as many other jobs in the sense that it's like a party industry, you're the center of the party kind of thing, and so I suppose things can get out of hand quickly. And
if you're that popular that you're playing, let's say you play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday every week, all over the world, not just in the same place. You've got your travel, you get plied with drinks wherever you go, unless you literally say, I don't drink, like Don Diablo doesn't drink.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, I think Armin does. But anyway, it can be very easy to, like you said, I think, without knowing from experience, it looks like it's very easy to fall into that. I'm at a festival every day. And it's not healthy, is it? As much as it's good fun at the time, it's not healthy, especially in the long term.
Yeah. Well, that's it. At the end of the day, you've got to be sensible because we want them to stick around as long as possible. What's a DJ you saw that really surprised you? Maybe you'd never paid attention to before?
That's a tough one. I remember that there was two times when we were working at Tomorrowland, we had a big group of us, and we sort of didn't say we're going to split up. We all said, right, well, let's pick one each So, right, it's your turn now. Who do you want to go and see at this time? And we just sort of go around. And we ended up at the Lotus stage watching Armin van Helden. And obviously, he's got so many classic tunes, My being one of them, that everyone knows. But if I'd have looked at the lineup, I probably wouldn't have picked to go and see him. But I had such a fucking good time.
Yeah, there's a couple of his tracks that I've heard that I really like. Wings is probably my favorite. That's a really nice track by him. But yeah, there is certain artists that you'll hear like a track of theirs on a radio show or whatever, and you're like, I really like this.
Yeah, no, I think off the top of my head, there's probably a million better answers that I could give if I really racked my brains, but I think all my brain cells have fucking disappeared over the last year. So yeah, off the top of my head, that's one, and then I think Fatboy Slim's the other one. Not because the music he plays isn't necessarily right on my street, but the show he puts on, fucking DJing under the decks, and like I went to Birmingham to see him a couple of years ago, and he was in the middle of the room rather than everyone standing front to back and there at one end. He was literally on a plinth in the middle of the room that revolved.
Where was this?
That was, I think it was called the O2. It was in Birmingham.
Oh yeah, O2 Academy, yeah, or Institute.
Yeah, and I'd never seen nothing like it, but it just had a really good night. Yeah. Didn't expect that, but yeah, I think it was the fun element. It wasn't. It was almost like what we all say about Salvatore Ganacci. If you listen to one of his sets, you think it wasn't amazing music selection, but he makes it entertaining and fun by just being a clown.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You know, at the end of the day, if they're drawing in a crowd, they're doing something right because they're entertaining people. That's the job at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I literally I rushed to finish work to get back, get changed, and get out, just see a bit of Salvatore because I knew he had this mad reputation. I wanted to see what mad stuff he was going to do this time.
Yeah. Too right. We're going to play a couple games now that you might be familiar with. The first one we'll play, I'm going to say a subgenre, and I just want you to explain it as best as you can to somebody that you've never met, that has no understanding of music whatsoever or music production.
Right.
Okay. Let's go with let's go with Melbourne Bounce.
Right, without saying bounce, because that's exactly what it is. It's like a cheesy, chavvy. I don't know whether I want to say funky or groovy, but it's got that. You want to move to it. So without me saying you want to bounce around, you want to move to it. It moves you for you. You don't have to think about it. But yeah, There's a couple of artists that come into mind, a couple of songs from back when that was big, 2012, that like pop into mind. But yeah, I suppose that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, no, that works well for me. That makes sense. Let's go with Hardstyle next.
Again, you're going with the ones where there's a word where you can't say that word because it's already there. Heavy, fast.
Yeah.
Ear bleeding, depending on how hardstyle, because obviously you got the subgenres that go from your normal 150 right up to pointless noise.
200 plus, yeah.
Yeah, woodpecker bashing his head against a fucking wall.
And let's do Bass House.
Right, this is one that I'm not massively into, but like a couple of names, so I'll try and summarize at the end. But like I sort of think when I think Bass House, I'm like, there's a little bit of laid back loop, but then there's elements in like Mike Williams, but it's a bit more popular. But then you've got your bass line, which is different, and it's like that's something I struggle with actually. When I'm putting what genre one of me brand new downloaded songs is, there's certain ones that are like, that's fucking obvious. Big Room, progressive. There's other ones where it's like Big Room and trance, like Big Room trance.
Yeah.
And then there's other ones where I'm just like, what the fuck is that? Like, where do I place that?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not commercial. That's probably the most obvious thing I could say about it. But I'm not really into like your Charmies and your Marlers either.
Oh, I love them, man. Like that's a deep dive that I've done since this sort of past year or so. I've done a deep dive on all their stuff, and it's such a bummer because I wish I could have seen it more often.
Dirty, that's a good word.
Yeah.
This house it's dirty.
Yeah. Well, what we're gonna go into now, and as you've used that, you might have to come up with something else. Is the one-word game, where I'll say the subgenre. And I want you to say the first word that comes into mind about that subgenre. If you need to, or you feel like you want to elaborate and sort of describe it a bit more, you can do. Let's go with progressive house.
Happy.
That's literally what I have down for mine. That's hilarious. Deep house.
Less energetic, groovier, slower. So yeah, you can tell that I've got a dead positive opinion of it. I like things that I can jump around like a twat to, like a fucking salmon.
Yeah, me too, mate. Me too. Well, speaking of jumping around like a twat, Big Room.
Huge. So I would say heavy, but then if I said that about hardstyle, that's like really heavy.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's huge. If you go with Big Room, it's that heavy drop.
Yeah, I have heavy as a describing word for one of the others because I think Big Room can be really heavy, but there's other subgenres that are
epic. That's a good word for Big Room. Epic.
Nice. Hardstyle.
Raw. Yeah, obviously like fast. That's where I could say heavy, because like to me, if I'm going by levels of stuff, Big Room isn't stupidly heavy like hardstyle is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that works. Trance.
Emotional.
Lovely. Psytrance.
Tribal.
I think you watched one too many episodes of mine. That's mine. No, that works definitely. Bass house.
Grimy.
Okay. Yeah. That works absolutely. Techno.
Boring.
Yeah. Mine for techno is never ending. I'm like, when's this shit?
Yeah, it's just samey.
Yeah,
as well.
That's perfect. That is, yeah.
It just feels like nothing changes. You get the same beat, you get the odd hi-hat, everything drops, and then it happens again. I don't understand how someone can enjoy going and watching an event where that's on, like the same as what we were saying about hardstyle, and listen to the same thing all day. The Hardwell, the Swedish House Mafia, the actual Ingrosso sets, they have a journey, a flow. Even like an Armin van Buuren trance set, there's ups and downs and things change. I just don't get having the same thing on for an extended period of time.
No. I mean, I get as confused looking at that crowd as I do sort of the mainstream crowd. I'm like, even the mainstream crowd, I look at maybe a bit more, and like I understand it a bit more because there's a bit more diversity. With techno, every single track sounds the same. Like it's doof, 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 doof,
Yeah.
doof, doof. It's like, fuck me. I'll watch like a video on Facebook. It's like doof, doof, doof. I'm thinking, okay, 15 seconds up, it's going to change. And no, it's the same. And you wait 30 seconds. Nope, same. 45. It's like, and then the same every single track. And then you look at like the crowd at that festival in Italy, I think it is, or whatever. And I'm like, are you not?
Yeah, I've tried to give everything a bit of a chance, and I do occasionally drop back in. And like I've tried to listen to Amelie Lenz, Charlotte de Witte, and I do like things with a beat, but I can't differentiate between the songs. I can't tell when one starts and one finishes. Another one, Prids, obviously it's a different type. It's a lot more minimal, but I can't get excited about it.
Oh, looks like I've met someone that's the same as me. I've never been interested in Prids whatsoever.
Everyone's like, but how it's Eric Prids? I'm like,
I don't get it.
I was sat in the Freedom Stage at Tomorrowland 2018 or weekend 1 2019. I can't remember which one it was. And I was having a good time. I was pretty pissed. And then I'm watching it. I'm thinking, fuck me, when's he going to start? Like, this is bollocks. So I sat down.
Yeah.
Until everyone, because this is when we're going on our group journey. So someone picked, we've got to go and see Prids. So I just thought, I'll just rest my feet for 20 minutes before they get bored and we move.
Yeah, I don't know. It's never captured me. I just I don't know. I don't see the selling point with it. I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, look at the lasers and things like that. It's like, yeah, but that only does so much. Like, we're here for music, not for a laser show.
Yeah, but again, like I do try and keep open. So like I found the only good use of a Prid set is when I'm doing something I've got to concentrate on, some like work on my laptop. It's good to have on in the background because you don't get distracted by it. There's just a bit of a beat in the background, but you don't like start singing along. Go, oh fucking hell, what's this song again? Like you just sit there and it's just not silent.
Yeah, fair play. Dubstep.
Old. It's completely. I mean, I know it's probably different. Well, it is different in America, but for here, it was big again about 2012, and it's just disappeared. Like you don't hear trap over here either. It's the same.
Yeah, there's a guest that I had on a few weeks ago, and he gave me the funniest answer I've ever had for dubstep. He said robots fucking. I was like, oh my god, that's amazing.
Brutal, but understandable.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, you go, actually, he's got a point.
Yeah. It's hilarious. Drum and bass.
Mental.
Are you a drum and bass fan?
I'm not. I wouldn't say if you said what do you like, that's not one of the ones that pops into my head straight away. But one of the first acts I got into, sort of dance music wise as well, was Pendulum, which obviously I did quite like that. Then I was in year 10 at school, so that was fucking a long time ago. I'm 30 now, and we had a workshop, and there was a DJ called Mark XTC, and then an MC called Ton Piper doing these workshops. One was teaching DJing, one was teaching MCing, and it turns out now that Ton is Andy C's MC.
Okay.
So I've been to see Andy a couple of times because I know Ton. Well, I say I know him. Like he's a famous guy that I sort of know, and he recognises me. 10 years after this workshop, when he had a class of kids, and he must have done that across the fucking country, I'm in the Albert Hall after Hacienda Classical in the bar, and about 4 queues down I hear, Benji! I'm like, you have not fucking remembered a year 10 kid's name from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
and so I really respected that about him. So I went to see him a couple of times, but there was one amazing time. We were about halfway back. We watched 3 hours of drum and bass at Creamfields one year. Wilkinson, maybe chasing status, and then it was Andy. And we were about halfway back in a relatively big tent, and Andy comes on. I'm like, right, come on, we're going to the front. And I'm screaming at Tom like a big fangirl, like, I'm fucking here to see you, knob. And he goes, 1 second, 1 second. And I'm like, what do you mean 1 second? You're in the middle of doing a fucking performance. Like, you're working. And he walks off, disappears backstage, comes back out, hands a beer into the crowd from backstage, and then carries on. I was like, what's just happened? This is sick. So yeah, I don't mind it in like hardstyle. I don't mind drum and bass in a dose.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be an all day or all weekend thing.
What about trap?
I just want to describe it in a movement. I just want to fucking. It's just, yeah. I get when Axel Ingrosso drop one drop in a whole hour and a half set. I don't mind it, but again, a whole set of it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just like,
yeah. What would you say the one word is for it?
Headbanging.
That's the one that I save heavy for, because even though it's not for me, I do understand that it is quite heavy. Like you say, when they drop it in one of their sets, if they're doing mainly all their stuff and you got like more of the charty stuff as well in there, and then they play that, it's like, whoa.
Yeah. But then you've got like your DJ Snake sets where I find them bizarre, because he literally, like, when I saw him headlining at Tomorrowland, whatever year that was, on the Saturday night.
I seen that. That was 2019, I think.
Yeah, right. So he plays.
I was there, yeah.
Half an hour of his commercial house stuff and then half an hour of heavy as fuck stuff. And there was like no like blend. It just went from airy fairy, oh, this is nice and I can sing along to it, to fuck me, what's going on?
Oh, he opened up with a trap track and I was leaving already because I was heading back to the campsite. I was just like, I've never been into trap anyway, and it just didn't interest me. But like his Pardon My French stuff, like the stuff that he's done with Mercer and the Charming Marla stuff, like all that stuff I love. So I do like it when he plays the bass house stuff that they kind of play. But then he does commercial stuff as well, which is completely different to that. And then trap, which is completely different to either of them. And it's like, But yeah, when he came on with the trap songs, I was ready to leave. Next one is Happy Hardcore.
Chavy. It just reminds me of people from like Blackpool or Wigan.
That's hilarious. Tropical House.
Beach.
Nice.
It's just chill, like chilled.
Whenever
anyone says Kygo or Tropical House, all I think of is a beach, a palm tree, and fucking lying there.
Yeah. Groove / funk.
Well, I can't say groovy or funky, can we?
What I
say
like
disco because it's similar.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
That's the link that I make there.
Yeah, that works absolutely. Future bass.
Well, Heldon's is literally like, future bass. Pass. Give me an example, because I've told you this. I'm shit with genres. Give me an example and see if.
It's all that stuff that you hear in America. You don't really hear it here, so I'm not too.
Oh, like Chainsmokers sort of stuff.
Yeah. Like I think Millennium does it.
Yeah. So I describe that as happy trap.
Yeah, that's a good way.
It's like happy commercial trap.
Yeah. Well, to me, like, I don't know if it's because I think Proximity has like a lot of that sort of stuff, and like obviously all of their stuff is very bright colors in their videos. So for me, when I think future bass, I think colorful.
Yeah.
I just think lots of like colors and things like that. But I don't know. I suppose we've all got our own ways of thinking about that. So, what have you got sort of planned for the next coming year?
Well, I've really started more recently trying to take the DJing a lot more seriously. Not that I wasn't before, but it's more like strategic now. So it's not a case of I just want to keep practicing on my decks and putting my radio show together and whatever. Now it's like, right, be good at your social media to market that you're doing your live stream or your radio show's on or you've uploaded it to SoundCloud. I want to be more strategic with getting bookings. I want to actually actively go out and say to places, look, this is what I do. This is who I am. What can I do for you? So, yeah, I think DJing wise, there's that. And then just music wise, I've got fucking loads booked that may or may not happen when allowed. The first one's due to be the socially distanced Darren Styles one on the 22nd of May.
Is that replacing the Timmy Trumpet one, or what's going on?
No, that's separate. Because that's like a Social Avenue one.
It's different promoters, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I booked that just because I thought, do you know what? If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. You probably get your money back, or they'll roll it over to when it can happen. So, it's one of them as well. I think it's really important with this scene being so fucked for the last year, 18 months.
Yeah.
And for a good few months, yeah, it's going to take a while to recover. So the more you can, like a lot of people, like I'm booking nothing else now until it's definitely going ahead. But if you can it's almost like if you can put money into that ticket that will roll over, then that company is not going to go bust.
Yeah,
there is a danger with some of them that they might.
Yeah, I know. Like there's a few promoters out there that are kind of holding back, and they're saying, "Oh, nah, we ain't going to open in June, and we ain't going to do this and that." I'm like, well, I'm telling you now, you're going to be left behind by the guys who are planning for it. And it's the same goes for DJs and anybody else working in the music industry. If you weren't prepared and things do open in June and things go back to normal, then you're going to get left in the dust by the people who were.
Yeah, I think it's a chance worth taking.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially like my mindset as well is like I've never been paid to DJ at all. Like I did that one gig for free and I loved it. House parties and stuff. Again, like I don't care. But going forwards, I do want to earn some money from it. But while it's like me and a venue could help each other in that I can gain experience, but I'm not going to command a charge or a big charge while they're getting back on the feet. And I've got no backing to say, this is why you should pay me all this money. Like, eventually that's the goal, but I can sort of say, like, one of my local pubs said recently, I said, do you want me to play in the beer garden when your beer garden opens for a few hours on a sunny Saturday afternoon? And he went, well, we've not, just waiting to hear from the brewery for an entertainment budget. I went, oh, fuck off. Like,
yeah,
that's more reason for me to help you out now. And then hopefully that shows you that I can help and what I can do. And then you can book me when you got a budget.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, thank you for chatting to me, mate. I've really enjoyed it. And
yeah, it's been good.
Have a good rest of your weekend, and hopefully, maybe sort of 6 months' time or something like that, things will be back up and running. We'll have played a few gigs, and I'll have a catch up with you again.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Well, hopefully if it's not before that Mike Williams one.
Oh yes, yeah. Hopefully, I'll see you there, and I'll be definitely going to that Timmy Trumpet one as long as it goes ahead. So I'll see you there as well.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll bump into each other quite a bit when things do open.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we'll be at most of the same gigs together.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Nice one. Cheers, man.
All right, bro.
Take care.
Cheers for having me on, and take care.
Nice one.